Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I need to get a motion to go into the 71st special session, please.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. First is approval of an ordinance, 2018 Land Management Code Amendments.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move that the mayor and city council approve an ordinance to amend Chapter 140 Land Management Code of the City Code. This ordinance itemizes a package of amendments covering a wide range of revisions, which began review by the Planning Commission in 2018. The complete details are outlined in the attached ordinance. This amended and revised version of the Land Management Code shall be known as version 3.5.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Yeah, someday you'll have to explain that to me. Introduction of an ordinance, budget fiscal year 2019-20.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for the introduction of an ordinance May 14th, 2019, to adopt the city's budget for fiscal year July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, in the total amount of $143,194,725.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Introduction of an ordinance, tax rates beginning July 1, 2019.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for the introduction of an ordinance May 14th, 2019, to establish the city's tax rates for the fiscal year July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020 on the basis of $1 per $100 of assessed value of all real property excluding properties designated as apartments, which will be 1.032 per $100 of assessed value and 2.505 per $100 of assessed value of all business personal property within the city of Hagerstown. These rates are the same as current FY19 rates.
Second.
Discussion.
Just a big emphasis on these rates are the same.
That's right.
I like.
That's right. Same.
I mean, there's been no increase.
There's no increase.
All right, cool.
We are very much looking forward to that headline tomorrow.
I can already see it, and that's not it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Introduction of an ordinance authorizing the sale of property located at 64 East Franklin Street for the city's CDBG home ownership program, Communities City Center Plan, Catalytic Project number 8.
Mr. Mayor, hereby move for the mayor and city council to introduce an ordinance authorizing the sale of property located at 64 East Franklin Street for the city's CDBG home ownership program. The property will be conveyed to Tamika J. Mitchell for a sale price of $130,000. The sale will be in accordance with all terms and conditions listed in the attached purchase agreement.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, out of the special session and the work session, we have 3 proclamations this evening. And, Nikki Hauser, can you come forward? Anybody want to bring it? All right, the proclamation is for, it's long, okay. Proclamation of Washington County Teen Pregnancy Prevention Month, May 2019. Whereas Washington County's teen birth rate has continued declining over the past 22 years. In 2017, Washington County had 114 births to teens who were ages 15 to 19 years old, giving Washington County the 3rd highest teen birth rate in Maryland. Whereas teen pregnancy can be caused by and contribute to many social and economic issues, including a lack of extended sexual education programs, stigma around accessing contraception, and talking about sex, greater unemployment rates, poverty, overall child well-being, and many risky behaviors, including use of controlled substances. Whereas many teens lack courage to ask parents about sex, but instead turn to unreliable sources which provide wrongful ideas on sexual intimacy, leading to nearly 1/3 of teen mothers leaving high school, limiting job opportunities, and continuing the cycle of poverty. And whereas in 2017, Washington County reported 771 sexually transmitted infections, chlamydia, gonorrhea, primary and early syphilis. This is a minor increase from the prior year. And whereas from 1991 to 2015, Maryland's teens' birth rate declined 74%, saving $72 million by 2015. These rates are continuing to fall in all racial and ethnic groups. In some cases, the gap in teen birth rates by race and ethnicity has narrowed. However, disparities remain. And whereas a group of community partners throughout Washington County advocating for teen pregnancy prevention will continue working to ensure educational programs, services, and resources available to our youth, encouraging them to continue making informed decisions. Whereas nationally, May is recognized as Teen Pregnancy Prevention Month to increase and renew awareness of the consequences of teen pregnancies on children, families, and communities. Now therefore, I, Robert E. Brucci II, Mayor of the City of Hagerstown, Maryland, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2019 as Washington County Teen Pregnancy Prevention Month in Hagerstown, Maryland, and encourage all citizens to work together to reduce and prevent teen pregnancy for the future success of our young people. Signed by me. I'll say a few words.
I'll let you, because he actually runs our program, our Youth Overcoming Life Obstacles, so.
Well, as you can see over the years, it has decreased a lot. And the percentage it does show a big number, but when we actually look at the hard numbers, we are down to, we've decreased it a lot. It is based off of per capita. That's how we get the percentages. But it has decreased, and one of the biggest thing is the education, the extended education that we've been providing and partnering with the other groups throughout Hagerstown has helped a lot, and we've seen a lot more improvement in some of the teens or young adults are going out and advocating for us.
Thank you very much for all your hard work. Apparently it's paying off. So. Eric? Come on, come on.
Smiles, 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Community Action Month is next. Proclamation, National Community Action Month, May 2019. Whereas National Community Action Month was created by the Community Action Partnership to reinforce community action agencies' role in helping low-income families. And whereas Washington County Community Action Council is the only community action agency in Hagerstown and Washington County. And whereas Community Action connects individuals and families to approaches that help them succeed and promotes community-wide solutions to challenges throughout our cities, suburbs, and rural areas. And whereas Community Action builds and promotes economic stability as an essential aspect of enabling and enhancing stronger communities, which in turn promotes self-sufficiency, ensuring that all Americans are able to live in dignity. And whereas Community Action connects millions of children and families to greater opportunity, transforming their lives and making our communities, our nation, stronger. And whereas Community Action offers life-changing services that create pathways to prosperity by connecting families to job training, affordable housing, utility assistance for seniors, promoting community-wide solutions, and sharing expertise. And whereas Community Action will continue to implement innovative programs that create a greater chance at success for everyone, we'll continue to focus on a broader range of community challenges to ignite economic growth and ensure all families can benefit. And we'll continue to be a voice for the disenfranchised. Now, therefore, with the support of the City Council, I, Robert E. Brucci II, Mayor of the City of Hagerstown, Maryland, do hereby proclaim May 2019 as Community Action Month in recognition of the hard work and dedication given to those in our community by the Washington County Community Action Council. Jordan, want to say a few words?
I'd just like to thank you and the council for the support of the Community Action Council. We're going to continue to work on our fundamentals, transportation, housing, and energy, and support the citizens of Washington County to be self-sufficient.
We know you do a great job. Thank you. Eric?
Okay, good smiles and 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Thank you.
And
And we have one more. How are you?
Great, how are you?
Good. This is a proclamation for National Kids to Park Day, Saturday, May 2018, May 18th, I'm sorry, 2019. Whew. Whereas May 18th, 2019 is the 9th annual National Kids to Park Day, organized and launched by the National Park Trust. And whereas National Kids to Park Day empowers kids and encourages families to get outdoors and visit America's parks. And whereas it is important that we encourage children to lead a more active lifestyle to combat issues of childhood obesity, diabetes, mellitus, and hypertension. And whereas, in recognition of National Kids to Park Day, the City of Hagerstown would like to encourage children and adults in Hagerstown to explore their neighborhood parks and discover science, history, nature, and adventure. Hopefully it will not rain. Now therefore, that's not in there, by the way. Now therefore, we, the mayor and council of the City of Hagerstown, Maryland, do hereby proclaim the May 18, 2019 as National Kids to Park Day and urge all citizens of Hagerstown to make time on this day to take the children in their lives to a neighborhood, state, or national park. Signed by me.
Yeah, I'd love to. So we would love families this weekend to come out to City Park for our annual Railroad Heritage Days event. It's on Saturday, May 18th from 10 to 4 in partnership with the Roundhouse Museum. We're selling a souvenir ticket for Saturday's event. It's $5 for adults and $1 for children. And it's just a fun day of activities for families, again, getting outdoors, enjoying our City Park train hub, and all the amenities that we have at City Park. Also, we have an activity at the Hager House this weekend as well. It's right like a colonial and includes a tour of the Hager House.
I
So-
already read one.
Okay.
No one can read mine here.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. This is you. Come here.
Okay.
okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
So this table is- more and more. All right, next on the agenda. Disappeared. All right. Next on the agenda is the Fort Detrick Alliance presentation.
Thank you for having us today.
Amanda Johnston and Jen Steiger.
Yes. Hi, I'm Amanda Johnston. I'm the executive director of the Alliance.
And I'm Jen Steger. I am a board member on the Alliance, and I'm also associate provost at Mount St. Mary's Frederick campus.
So we brought a PowerPoint today that goes over a bit of who we are and what we do and our mission. So we can kind of review that, but we don't have to stick right to it. We can have a bit more of a discussion. So we are a nonprofit, and our mission is to build relationships between the federal agencies located at Fort Detrick and in the region. And our mission goes into Washington County as well as Montgomery County and, of course, Frederick County. There are about 13,000 people employed at Fort Detrick, and a third of them come from Washington County and around the area in Hagerstown. And so it is a good portion of the workforce that's commuting down to Frederick for Fort Detrick. And it is the closest military base that is in the region. So there's kind of a map showing the commute that people make, of course, going into Frederick up 70 isn't that bad of a drive for everyone that's going down there, but we are working with MDOT on improvements to Route 15 to help with people commuting. And we spoke with MDOT earlier this year about that. This just lists our board of directors. We do have representatives from the City of Frederick Economic Development, the County Economic Development, also Susan Small from Washington County is on our board, and we would like to have someone from the City of Hagerstown serve on the board. We do have, like I said, someone from the City of Frederick on the board, and we're also reaching out into Montgomery County and working with the incubators there, and would like to have someone from Montgomery County Economic Development on our board.
Aren't your meetings like at 7:30 in the morning?
They are,
Leaves me out, just so you know.
the mayor remembers that from our meeting. Yes, they are early at 8:30.
8:30 to 10 at the Mounts Frederick
And it is
campus.
at the Mount, yeah. So people can call in, though, that is an option. Let's see, so we've had quite a lot of growth this past year. We've grown our members by 20%. This is just a listing of some of our members, and we do have several members that are from Washington County. We have the school system, Washington County Public Schools participates, as well as Hagerstown Community College, Washington County Department of Economic Development participates, and we also have worked with B&D Consulting and some other companies that are located in Washington County. So our constituents really are the military agencies located at the installation, economic development departments, and the school systems and people with that work in the STEM industries. This is a listing of the federal agencies that are located there. I'll go back a minute. We have the Department of Agriculture, Defense, Health and Human Services, Homeland Security, and Veteran Affairs. So there's a lot that happens at Fort Detrick, and a lot of times people aren't aware of all that goes on there, and so that is our role, is to kind of serve as a liaison to the public. We do that in a way that is similar to a Chamber of Commerce, in that we hold many events throughout the year that are networking for businesses to make those connections. We just had an event called Doing Business with the Fort, which was well attended and had several of the agencies at Fort Detrick present that our members could meet one-on-one with them and learn how they could better do work with the fort through government contracting opportunities. So we are really trying to reach out to the businesses and make those connections for them. This is listing some of our events and activities. We do have an annual summer social that we held last year at Big Quirk Vineyards. So another way that we reach into Washington County, and that will be held again this year in August. And then we hold quarterly networking breakfast at Hood College with different speakers that come from the fort and discuss things. Our next one's coming up in the end of June. So it's a general overview. Jen, did you?
And I think I think the goal is to get as many people involved and engaged and be able to support communities all around the region. So there are certainly opportunities for us to hold events in Hagerstown.
Work with.
We've started to do some of that through some of the events that we've held at HCC, but we'd certainly like to engage the city of Hagerstown as well.
Perhaps work with the Borough Box. I know we work quite a bit with HCC and the TIC there that's run by Janice Riley. She is on our board. And we had a tech showcase there with NIH recently where we had speakers come in from NIH. So we're always looking to engage with the community and the county as a whole, but more, also the city. So we wanted to have this opportunity, we're, pleased to be here today to let you know about all that we do. We'd love to have someone from the county council, the city council sit on the board.
Any questions from the council? I think someone who actually works in Frederick County would be a great person, so.
We can call into the meetings. 8:30, and you can call in. So it would just it'd be a great way to liaison more, see what's going on, because we always have a section of part of the board meeting that, Mount St. Mary's reports on their activities, Hood reports, HCC reports on what they're doing. So we'd love to have that component of our board meetings to hear more what's going on in the city. Susan Small does tell us about the general county, but I know that there's a lot of events, even the one that was just discussed at the Hager House, those kinds of events where if we could have a table or give out information about what we do. We also do work with the family and welfare at the installation, so kind of just bridging what happens at the fort with our active duty military and spouses and what's going on in the community. So it is business oriented, but it's also, we do work a lot with military, with active duty and the spouses, and we have a program called the C3 program, which connects people with jobs, transitioning military as well as active duty spouses. So we'd love to get that information out to the city of Hagerstown.
And I think it's a good opportunity for individuals from a variety of different areas and backgrounds to connect with each other and figure out ways that we can develop collaborations to better support the people that live here, right?
Yeah, because a third of people are commuting down to Frederick County to work there, and it is the closest military base. I should also say we are funded through the Maryland Department of Commerce, and there are 6 other military alliances that we work with, the Fort Meade Alliance, as well as the Army Alliance. And we do lobby in Annapolis and go down to Annapolis twice a year. As I mentioned, we did the MDOT hearing, so we also do serve as a conduit with local government actions as well. So we'd love to have someone from the city council represent.
Is there a fee to be a member?
It is for the city council to be on the board, no. As far as the general membership levels, it starts at $100 and goes to $5,000 for businesses.
Okay.
It depends on the size of the business, obviously. Individuals can participate for $100. It's kind of like a chamber of commerce. The events, if you are a member, are free. We just had our Innovate and Celebrate Gala, which was about STEM. We also work a lot with the school system with STEM. So you can come to the events if you're a member for free.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for the time.
Sure, we'll be in touch.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Action report update on community city center plan. Kathy, Jill.
There's a copy of the PowerPoint we'll send around here, and also if we can get Eric to pull that up on the screen. Here it goes. So our update is really a 2018 year-end report, and we were postponed, I think, in March, and so we're happy to come before you.
It skipped over last week.
It skipped over last week, but I think it's important to deliver the year-end report for one key reason, because I think it tells the story of momentum on our strategic direction for our downtown, which is leading to a growing investor confidence. So I think that's the primary reason, and we also use this report that we give you to share with prospective investors and with the community. So I believe that the city center plan is broad enough that we are able to adapt it as we need to over its 10-year period. Keeping momentum over a 10-year period, I think, is important. And we are now, this July, at the 5-year mark. So we're hitting the halfway point on the 10-year period.
And it's really important too, because before we had this product, we were criticized as not having a plan for the downtown. And so this is a demonstration. And when we adopted this plan, everyone in the business community was like, all right, finally, and the UIP started progressing pretty rapidly after that. So it is important to demonstrate we do have a vision for the downtown, and we're working from a plan.
And our purpose today is really just to give you an informational update. I think we've done a good job over the last
6 months especially, and taking some of the topics within the city center plan, breaking it down into discussions within work sessions. So if there's any topic, we can come back at a work session and dive deeper in any of the areas of the plan. There's two overarching components of the plan that go across all 8 Catalyst projects, and the 1 gigabit service downtown is provided by 2 service providers, and we have developed a website, video, other marketing materials. We've promoted this at trade shows. TEDCO was a recent trade show. We share the information with prospects, and we are using the fact that the city of Hagerstown is one of few cities with gigabit service as a business attraction tool. We continue to look at ways in which we can continue to integrate that message into our investment marketing messages that we're putting out there.
And the next overarching project is the one that probably the public is most aware of if they try to travel on Potomac Street, which is the urban improvement project. Right now, there's a lot of activity on South Potomac with the expansions to the Maryland Theater and the expansions to the University, the Board of Education. Both of those projects were specifically either recommended or supported as things that were underway in the Community City Center Plan. And the USMH project, which is expanding across West Washington Street and out onto Walnut Street, was also specifically recommended in this plan. And when we had this plan, and the county jumped on board, and state officials jumped on board, and that's when we got this great partnership that was the urban improvement project between the governor, other state funding sources, the county, the city, the Maryland Theater, the Board of Education, private developers, University of Maryland, $37 to $42 million project between all of those components, and the governor pledging $7.5 million over 5 years. It's a fantastic investment. It's spurred a lot of activity, which Jill will touch on later. In this next slide, you see the map of the components that make up. It doesn't show Walnut Street because it didn't fit on this map, but the components of the urban improvement project, where the existing USMH is, where they're expanding across the street, the existing BISFA building, their expansion next door, and the Maryland Theater and their expansion out front, and then the Plaza project, which maybe not a lot of public people have a lot of awareness of, but that's the city's component of this project, is in behind the buildings. We'll be creating a public area that could be for small events, but also more specifically helps with the back of the house kind of support for the Board of Education, the Maryland Theater, for deliveries and buses and all that kind of stuff. And we're also going to be extending the Hagerstown Cultural Trail up through this area, across the plaza, and then on out to West Washington Street. God, I'm going down.
Just a recent photo of the urban improvement project, May 3rd photo there.
Yes. And they are all on track with their schedules. The Maryland Theater's still pushing hard. They're going to be having their grand opening on October 11th, closing up soon so that they can really ramp up the interior fit-outs and so forth this summer. So that's very exciting. And our staff and PCAT are very supportive of these projects, going down there every day to check the progress for both of the projects, attending their progress meetings just to make sure that there's no surprises and everybody's communicating, and so that's been working out really well. And then this is, the prior map shows you the latest rendering of that plaza trail area, the intent of how the trail would go through, and kind of the layout of that plaza back in behind the Maryland Theater and what's the county building at 33 West Washington Street. And then just to show you part of what it was, our aspect for the project is the plaza. A big part of it was undergrounding the wires, and that's been completed now. So if you're back in that alley by the District Court and the Maryland Theater, all those wires are now underground. And that was a significant investment by the city to support this project. And it's a dramatic difference, because there was a lot of stuff back there up against the backside of the theater.
And this is, as the Herald Mail article Sunday featured, was titled Investments Multiply Downtown. This is a collage of just some of the additional investment that is happening surrounding the urban improvement project. So not counting the $42 million that's going into that project alone, we estimated $15.5 million. I can even update that number further with some plans for additional work at the Hamilton Hotel, So we're 16.5 million in the immediate area surrounding the urban improvement project. If you take it out a little further and you include projects like the Moeller Organ Building, changes at Beachley Furniture, the Walnut Street Clinic, you're well over 20 million in spurred investment, which we strongly believe that this investment is happening as a result of the urban improvement project and the confidence that is being built in our downtown. Catalyst project number 1 is the opportunity to do new construction of Class A office space on the central lot. We have not seen this project move forward. However, we continue to market this as a product offering to anyone who is interested in office space downtown. So it serves as a alternative to renovated property should the client be looking for that type of office space. Class A office space is being offered in the region, which is your new construction with the highest level of amenities. So you can see buildings, the first one is 30,000 square feet. The second is 54,000 square feet. There's an additional example with Emerald Point as another Class A office building. In order for Class A office space downtown, this project to move forward, we would need a minimum of a customer to come in at approximately 20 to 25,000 square feet. And then this would move from a concept to an actual project. And the concept of the project starts with phase 1 with an initial building of 70,000 square feet. I still think this is doable. It will come when the market bears it. So I think we should keep it on our radar screen and continue to investigate when the market might bear this type of project.
And next, Catalyst project number 2 is the Maryland Theater expansion, which of course is part of the urban improvement project. Much of this information is things that we've gone over in the past. A lot of funding from the state and the county and the city. Additional funding commitments were made by the city and the county this year. So the Maryland Theater is working really hard to try to reach their total budget so they'll be debt-free when they open up, so that they don't have to be paying on a debt. They can just continue to fundraise to make the theater a success. So there's still chances. If people have not donated for this project, there's still chances. And we already showed a picture of it underway, and as I mentioned earlier, they're still pushing for October 11th as the grand opening for the Maryland Theater.
Project number 3 is expansion of the university system. So the goal here is really to grow the university system programs and therefore grow student housing. The next slide shows the BB&T building on West Washington Street, which is the hospitality management program, underway with the lease being finalized and the interior demolition completed and starting the interior fit out for the hospitality program, which will start in the fall of this year. The Walnut Street Clinic, which is now the Anita M. Stein Schreiber Health Sciences Center, was dedicated last week at 24 North Walnut Street. This is the physician assistant program being offered by Frostburg State. Over 400 applicants to this program with 24 selected, which will start their orientation next Monday. So a great new addition to downtown and the use of this building. Also, as I went to the ribbon cutting and dedication, and Austin was there as well, great use of high technology in education. So really a terrific program. And a little stats here on the expansion of university system. The physician assistant program will start with the 24 students. It will grow to 50 students when it's at full capacity. The hospitality program will start with 18, grow to 40 in the fall, and then the addition of a community health program starting with 12 students and growing at capacity to 30 students. This creates a housing demand initially in 2019 of an anticipated 18 housing units for students, possibly more, and 18 more in 2020. And our student housing project, this is our second pilot project at 140 West Antietam Street. And this is 10 apartments accommodating 18 students. So we have 8 two-bedroom units and 2 one-bedroom units. It was supported with a community legacy grant of $200,000 from the state, and it carries the same rent guarantee arrangement as we did with our initial pilot program. And we're looking at the final stages of the inspections this week for move-in in parallel with the start of the program. Just a quick reminder of our first student housing project. This was 4 two-bedroom units accommodating 8 students and remains relatively fully occupied except for tenant turnover. And then again, we did a collage of various downtown housing projects, and I would estimate already 50 renovated student, artist, or rental units. If you look at projects that are both completed, under construction, or planned, adding in Hamilton Hotel, both their initial phase and a proposed second phase of an additional 30 units, we're soon approaching over 90, soon approaching over 100 renovated housing units downtown. And that's really changing the landscape in what I would say is creating a 24-hour downtown. That concentration of new residents will create a demand for new businesses and new services.
And then catalyst number 4 is the Hotel Conference Center Commemorative Park Project. As we've discussed this in the past, the council has discussed in the past. It's viewed as a much more long-term in nature product, again, tied to market conditions, because hotel chains, they're rather risk averse, so they want to be sure that your downtown is really taking off. So as the urban improvement project, all this ancillary related investment, perhaps the stadium, other things like that, as it shows that the market is really strengthened in the downtown, that's when we would have better chances of recruiting this type of a use that was recommended by the plan. And then catalyst number 5, that's the linking City Park and the Museum of Fine Arts with the A&E District, with a trail and with new housing. As we all know, the city really jumped on the trail project with Rodney Tissue taking the lead on that project for us. And so we've got it built now from the Park Circle area all the way up to West Antietam Street. We're planning to extend it up into West Washington Street through the Urban Improvement Project Plaza area. And as Jill was showing, while this catalyst recommended housing along the trail, that has not occurred yet, but we certainly are seeing a lot of housing investment in the downtown very close to the trail. And so we hope in the future that more things could occur with some of those buildings on Antietam Street. Whether we'll ever see anything built on the Housing Authority's park or on the Harold Mills parking lot like Urban Partners envisioned, who knows? But there's plenty of other properties around where things are happening with housing and could happen with housing.
Yeah, there was a rendition of housing at the corner of Baltimore and Summit, also in that area there.
Yeah. And then there's just a little information about the project, which we've gone over in the past, the fact that it opened in 2017. We've installed all kinds of things. The next few slides quickly show you all the public art that's been added into the trail. These are some of the older ones, these first two, and then the last slide, those are the most recent additions. The mural that went into University Plaza, and then this is a new sculpture on the right that went in along the trail down near the bar properties.
Project number 6 is to expand our arts and entertainment programming downtown. So the city produces events, we also partner, and at more frequency, we partner to produce events downtown. We serve as a resource to event organizers. The Main Street Hagerstown program is a key component of driving new activities and events, as well as the engine room art space. Just to give you a list from 2018, over 31 events, many multiple days. I highlighted several that were new events in 18, including Sweets on the Street, Chalk Art Festival, the USA Cycling, a variety of different walks downtown, the library's longest table event, and the Dash and Splash Fun Run. In addition, in the report, we talk about event space downtown as USMH brings on their hospitality management program. Their room will accommodate up to 150 people seated in a banquet style, or as many as 200 people seated theater style. So another new venue added to other venues downtown for events, including the Maryland Theater, as an event center, 28 South Ballroom, Grand Piano Ballroom, so lots of locations for both indoor and outdoor events. We've given you recent updates from the Main Street Hagerstown program at different work sessions. We'll continue to update you and to evolve this program. Just some of their activities include focus groups, Tuesday night trivias. Tonight is at Bulls and Bears at 6:30. Cleanup and planting, so we had a planting just this past Saturday with over 12 to 15 volunteers helping us out in beautification efforts. We're working on affiliation with the Keep America Beautiful program and rolling out an Adopt a Block program. There's an upcoming June 6th volunteer recruitment event, and there's a series of business seminars, and that's just a sampling of the great work that we're doing with the Main Street program with tremendous volunteer support. And then you'll hear tonight an update on the farmer's market from Kitty Clark. And this is just a sampling of some of the social media and some new energy and synergies that are happening between vendors and new excitement in the farmer's market.
And then finally, Catalyst Project number 8 is expanded and targeted home ownership support, which is market home ownership incentives and support neighborhoods first programs, establish annual rental licensing inspections, continue excessive nuisance enforcement programs. And so as we've updated you in the past with the rental program, in 2018, there were 9,233 units registered in 3,621 properties. The code was amended in 2018 to take effect on July 1 to create a provision for inspections of the never inspected units. And staff have been working for months trying to nail that down, just exactly which these units are, so that we can work over the next couple of years to inspect them. For the vacant structures program, we had 428 vacant properties in the program in 2018. Planning is underway in a multi-departmental effort on the tax sale no bid vacant properties. Ones that's just year after year, they don't pay their taxes, goes up for tax sale, nothing happens because there's a lot of liens on many of these properties. So it's a strategy staff have been working on for quite a while, and I think we're due for an update soon. And then we've also, with the additional money that's been put into PCAD's budget to address blight, we're prioritizing blighted vacant properties, and we have, in 2018, we finally were able to demolish the collapsing sixplex on East Franklin Street. There was 6 different units there with multiple property owners, made it very challenging. One unit challenged our determination that it needed to come down, which was upheld by the Board of Technical Appeals. So that, we lost a lot of time there because there's no way you could take down 5 of them and leave up a little spindly 12-foot wide unit at the end. So we had to wait until it got to a point where eventually everyone agrees, yes, there's no hope, nothing's gonna happen here. So those were taken down last summer. And then also a duplex on North Jonathan Street. We were actually out there to fix the roof with our abatement funds and discovered because this large hole in the roof had been allowing water in for so long that the structure was actually collapsing. You couldn't tell from the outside, but collapsing on the inside. So unfortunately, we had to, rather than fix that one came down last summer as well.
That was Cooper's Barber Shop, right? That's it.
Yes. And then the home ownership program, we had a $150,000 Community Legacy Award in FY16 for acquisition rehab for home ownership. So we acquired and then sold as is 278 South Prospect Street. And then we've got a contract pending for the beautiful job we did renovating 64 East Franklin Street into one house. And then on 261 South Prospect Street, renovations are currently underway to convert this to a 2-unit condo project.
Not
And
condos.
what?
Not condos.
Not condos, all right, sorry.
Home
Oh,
ownership.
okay, home ownership, sorry, a duplex, 2-family house. And That should be ready in the summer of 2019, so soon. And then finally, the City Center Residency Initiative. Since December of 2013, there were 7 new home buyers, 18 new rental residents, and then the program funding was expended, and then we got more funding for the program for down payment assistance with a $50,000 community legacy grant with city funds matching it, came up to $100,000. We have 3 new city center home buyers and 10 new citywide home buyers.
So again, just wanted to give you an informational update and to kind of run you through quickly. If there are any topics you want us to dive deeper into, we'd be happy to come back in a work session.
Sounds like progress.
Yeah, sounds awesome.
That's what it sounds like, but, you know,
Exciting times.
Yes,
another good headline for tomorrow.
yes.
Certainly seems like there'll be some photos.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, fiscal year 20 budget review.
Good afternoon. Michelle Hepburn was not able to join us this afternoon. She had a family emergency to get to. So I'm here to, again, thank you for approving the intro to the ordinance for the FY19 budget as well as the FY20 budget as well as the FY20 tax rates. So tonight we're gonna kind of continue with our conversation about the budget. And the section we're gonna go into this evening is called the Special Revenue Funds. And first off, we have the Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG. So we're gonna take a look at section 4, pages 5 through 8. And I have Jonathan Kearns here. He can go into more in depth about all the numbers that are included in CDBG since he is handling that grant. But just take a note on page 5, again, same type of template that we're looking at, FY18 actual, FY19 budget is listed, FY19 estimated actual is listed, and then the FY20 proposed is listed as well. So I will turn it over to Jonathan.
Yes, so I think last week we had touched briefly on the CDBG annual action plan approval, which essentially coincides with our CDBG budget approval. And we recently received our CDBG grant announcement in mid to late April that we would be receiving $771,000 for our FY20 entitlement amount, which is a slight increase from our current fiscal year's entitlement amount of $757,000. So a few things that we wanted to point out was obviously note that during the budget book process, the budget book assembly, we did not have the grant number, so the budget book shows a estimated grant amount of $700,000. So there is some variation there. But we should also like to point out that on page 6 of section 4, there is a chart that shows our CDBG funding entitlement history, and you can see our funding from fiscal year 15 through fiscal year 18 was relatively flat in that mid $600,000 range, and then we did see that bump up last year in fiscal year 19 to $757,000, and then once again this year seeing another small increase to $757,000. And also noting that as you look at the CDBG budget, we see sometimes the expenditures are much higher than the actual entitlement number. And just pointing out some reasons for that is that we also do annually receive program income. That's typically in the form of loan repayments that we've administered through various residential rehabilitation loan programs, also public facility loan programs, and then also through the sale of CDBG properties where we've purchased, rehabilitated, and then sold CDBG homes. So in fiscal year 20, our projected program income is approximately $273,000, and that's always fluid because loan payments are never a guarantee. Sometimes we have loans that are paid off unexpectedly. Sometimes folks get behind on payments. So that number is always a definite estimate each year. And then with program income and then also with the unique part of CDBG comes the fact that it doesn't zero out as we would look at our general fund. Typically, it zeroes out at the end of the year. CDBG funding, as long as we're meeting our timely spending requirements, sometimes projects will carry over from fiscal year to fiscal year, so then you'll have carryover from fiscal year to fiscal year of older grant amounts. So usually we're working every year, working down CDBG grants that are actually a year or two old. So sometimes that's why you'll see that variation between our actual entitlement amount and then our projected expenditures. For fiscal year 20, just to go over some highlights of the CDBG budget, it's going to look very similar to budgets through the CDBG program in recent years. Funding will be set aside for public service entities, which are our external partners that seek funding for what CDBG coins as public services. And to highlight those entities this year, REACH is one of the newer public services that's in the budget for CDBG in fiscal year 20. The Community Free Clinic, Girls Incorporated Supper Program, Senior Living Alternatives, Holly Place, CAC, Financial Literacy Program, together with families, are public services that are projected to be funded in fiscal year 20. One note that Children in Need is an entity that did not seek funding this year for the CDBG public service funding. So highlighting those external partners that have requested funding through the public service portion of the CDBG fund, shifting over to projects that we would work with engineering and funding in fiscal year 20 would be handicap accessibility ramps, which are the sidewalk ramps that are throughout the city's sidewalk system that Rodney is working to add accessible ramps every year. I believe there's also funding for the splash pad, which is at some point projected to be somewhere near the cultural trail, and then also funding for a resurfacing and reconstruction of the main parking lot in City Park up near, I believe, the upper level parking lot. Not sure exactly where, by the Mansion House. Also then in fiscal year 20, continuing most of our popular residential rehabilitation programs, emergency repairs, loan programs for homeowners, also funding for code enforcement, also funding for some external partners through housing, which would be Habitat, Commission on Aging, and H&DP. And then also to round that out would be funding for the CDBG administrative costs, which are administrative costs for carrying out the CDBG program, mostly salaries and wages, and then certain other items. And to note, I think Michelle wanted us to reiterate, she listed in the budget this year on section 4, page 8, the asterisks that we do have various regulatory caps that limit our public service funding and limit our administrative funding each year. We have to take into account our program income and the grants each year to calculate our 15% cap on public services and our 20% cap on administration. And one other note to highlight is we do have a section in the public facilities portion of the CDBG budget for loans, and that's for potential nonprofit agencies that are possibly looking for eligible rehabilitation or construction type expenses that the mayor and council, city council could decide on a possible loan through the CDBG program at a later date. So I think that's a high level overview. And we'd be glad to take any questions or.
Thank you.
Okay,
Right.
thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And our next topic, again, staying with special revenue funds, is economic redevelopment, and Jill's gonna come up. So we're looking at section 4, pages 10 through 12. Just to go over some highlight stuff before Jill goes into probably some more depth. On page 10, again, it goes into your program description. The first item there listed is 170 West Washington Street. We still own that property. And currently, it's been invested at $375,701 has been invested into that property. The second item listed there on page 10 is Invest Hagerstown. That is the original Invest Hagerstown program that was in place. And it had $1.5 million designated to it. And that part of that was a one-time fund balance adjustment that wasn't done. And by the end of FY19, all funds will be expended from that. And then on page 11, again, Invest Hagerstown. This is the new Invest Hagerstown program. To make a note, FY19 designated $550,000 to that. Currently, as of April 25th, only 15,500 is left in that FY '19 designated amount, that everything else has been obligated out. And then you can see there as well that the FY '20 budget shows $800,000 listed for the Invest Hagerstown program. And again, on page 12, again, same template, FY '18 actuals and '19 budget and estimated actual, as well as the FY '20 proposed budget. And looking at the template, looking at FY '19 estimated actual, currently under revenues, under state funding, there's $600,000 listed. 300,000, again, I'm on page 12. 300,000 of that is for the Maryland Theater. 300,000 of that is for the Board of Ed, and all of that has already been passed through to them. In FY '19 original budget, there was 900,000 listed, so the difference, the 300,000, is actually going back to our CIP for the plaza. Note 2 for FY '20. We have listed there for the state funding pass-through. Again, this is under for urban improvement project. There's $920,000 listed there. $500,000 is going to the Maryland Theater. $400,000 will be going back to the CIP for the plaza. And $20,000 will be going to the First Hose building. Again, that's for the FY '20 proposed for the state funding pass-through. Staying on that same page, just to talk about the state community legacy grant. For FY '19 estimated actual, there's $215,000 listed there. 200,000 of that is for the student housing, and then the difference of $15,000 is for the sign and facade grants. For the new Invest Hagerstown program, under expenditures, there's currently $800,000 listed for FY '20 proposed. And again, we need to remember that $50,000 of that has already been designated to the Maryland Theater, and we'll be bringing a motion back May the 28th to have that full $100,000 approved for the Maryland Theater. And that, again, that's for the FY '20 budget.
And like last year, I think it was in July that we came and presented ideas for what are the buckets of money that can be designated under the Invest Hagerstown program. We'll be coming back to you in June. Right now, these are just placeholders based on the 4 buckets that we identified for fiscal year '19 and in relative proportion. I know we looked at a range of things last year and narrowed it down to 4, so we want to have that same conversation with you to see if you want the existing 4, do you want to explore any others? And then in what proportions? Also, do you want to designate the money into pots like that, or would you like any type of general fund that allowed flexibility of a review committee to allocate across in different types of programs? So that to come in another conversation, but again, in fiscal year '19 was the total of $550. There was $250 to a current year project for a total of $800, and then we have the same $800 in the fiscal year '20 budget. Also on page 12 shows the Partners in Economic Progress with fiscal year '20 funding of $131. I think that's adequate funding for that program. A reminder that we recently expanded the boundaries of the PEP program. We also expanded the types of categories that are eligible for rent relief. While the title on that says rent payments, rent relief component of the PEP program, that line item also supports a grant back equal to taxes paid, which is another significant benefit of that program. The sign and facade grant program was grant funded, as Jennifer said, from the Community Legacy Program. We do not have continued state funding for sign and facade, so that would be a question, is that something that's supported under Invest Hagerstown Or would you like us to continue to try to seek outside state funding to continue facade support? I think I highlighted many of the key areas, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
And just to make a note too, staying on that page 12, Michelle wanted just to indicate that cash balances is also, a thought process when you're looking at the different funds, especially in your enterprise and your special revenue funds. And as of 6/30, this fund had $169K in cash, and as of May 7th of this year, it has $317K. Also looking at the fund balance there at the bottom on page 12, the 1.16 that's listed for FY18 actual, 985K of that is actually in properties, so it's your 170 West Washington, your Massey, and your Indian Lane properties. And then for your FY19 estimated actual, there's 1.1 million listed there for fund balance. Of that amount, 945,000 is in your properties for 170 West Washington and Indian Lane.
I would also highlight on page 12, there's a header that's USMH Housing Catalyst number 3 of 24,000 in fiscal year 20. That is a assumption for rent guarantee, should there be any vacancies. I think we estimate high and usually come in well under the number.
Okay, thank you, Jill. So we're going to continue next week. Again, we'll have the adoption of the ordinance for the FY20 budget and the FY20 tax rate. And then we'll continue with our final discussion, which will talk about the 5-year projections for parking, golf, and property management. Any questions?
Boy, thanks.
Oh, boy.
Any questions?
Wait to talk about parking.
Yeah.
We'll keep the fun stuff for last, right?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Nancy?
That's what I get from my emails trying to catch up on them. This one's a really easy one. We were approached by Potomac Edison a month or so ago. They had money in their InPower Maryland program that they needed to get on some projects. And we just so happened to have the EWIP project underway. We're about 80% complete on it. And fortunately, we hadn't paid any invoices yet because we hadn't received them. So we were able to work with them, and they're going to, the actual dollar amount will be based on money that, on performance, but it's estimated that we'll receive about $74,000 more in funding. We did clarify with MDE because of the EWIP grant. We have the $1 million grant that we received from MDE, and we were a little concerned that that may in some way, shape, or form impact that grant. But InPower is an incentive or a rebate program, so we can receive both the rebate or the incentive from Potomac Edison as well as the $1 million grant. So it was a nice gift, if you will. And
That's awesome.
with that, I will go ahead and sign the documentation and get it off to PE and their consultant.
Thank you,
Thank
Nancy.
you.
There's another good headline.
Yeah, they just keep going.
Community Legacy Strategic Demolition Fund application.
Yes, we are here to begin the process of submitting fiscal year 2020 applications to the state's Community Legacy Program and the Strategic Demolition Fund Program. And the deadline is June 12th, so we'll pass resolutions on May 28th. And this year, the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development has $6 million in community legacy funding and $5.5 million in strategic demolition funding for grant and loan awards around the state. And on to our proposed fiscal year 2020 applications. All of the projects are consistent with the city's sustainable community plan and are all located in the sustainable community area. The first project is for community legacy. We are thinking of applying for $400,000 in funding for a third student housing project, and if funded, the match would be provided by the developer. The next project would be for the urban improvement project, for construction of the plaza. We would be applying for $200,000 from Community Legacy, and the city has received prior strategic demolition funding for this project in the past. And then the next is the facade grant program, again, Community Legacy, and we'd be applying for $50,000. And again, the city has received Community Legacy funding for this program in the past, and the new funds would be beneficial to spark additional investment. And then moving on to the Strategic Demolition Fund projects, the first is the Life Safety Code Upgrades Fund, specifically for sprinkler vaults. The project is key to sparking investment downtown because the cost to install the water vault for the fire suppression sprinkler system deters prospects, so that would help pay for some of that. And then the last one is the Dolman Black Heritage Museum. Again, we'd be applying for $250,000, which is the same amount we applied for last year. And again, it'd be $120,000 for the acquisition and then $130,000 for architectural services. And we've been asked to apply for that again, even though it was unsuccessful last year. That's everything.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Kathy.
Get cranking on those applications. Might not see us for weeks.
Historic City Farmers Market update.
Kitty's on her way over because we're a little headed.
Uh-huh, we caught her snoozing, yeah. Rodney, you want to do transportation grant opportunities?
He would love to.
I saw you back there chomping at the bit.
These two grants are due tomorrow, but by policy, when there's a match, we need to come to you and make sure that you're okay with us applying. It's hard to find 100% grants anymore, so I just want to go over these two grants with you quickly, these opportunities, and tell me if you want me to continue with them. The first is the Safe Routes to School program, which we've built a ton of sidewalk in this community over the last 20 years. Now we're kind of focusing more on our traffic signals and the intersections. And of course, the official line is we want it to be handicapped accessible and safe for the children to cross there, but we also look at equipment that's outdated. We look at other things such as in the case of Eastern Boulevard, Frederick Street, a lot of people walk that way to go to the Potterfield Pool. So this is a $300,000 project. The maximum grant I can get is 80%, so the city would have to fund 20%. Wouldn't be in the budget that's coming up, it would be in the next budget because these are federal programs and they take a long time. So if you want to move forward with it, we would put this in our next year's budget request. The second one is the restoration of the locomotive in City Park and then the pavilion that shelters it. The locomotive was given to the city years ago. It's on the National Registry of Historic Places. It's the only locomotive of its kind in existence. When John Long was here, he took impeccable care of it, but we just don't have anybody like that that can tear apart a locomotive and put it back together. So we've talked to some consultants that are, contractors that do this kind of work, and it's pricey to restore the locomotive back to its original condition. And while we were there, we'd like to replace the pavilion that's over it. It's just doesn't display the train well. It's kind of squat right down on top of it. We'd like to do something a little more that looks like a train station, and this is a transportation alternatives grant. It's another 80% funded one. So the grant request would be $428,000 and our share would be $107,000. And that would include the shelter and the restoration of the locomotive. So I guess my question is, are you okay if I apply for these grants tomorrow?
Yes, for me.
Yes.
Where would the 107 come from? Just as a general question that someone might ask.
It'd be next year's budget again, not in the budget you're approving now, it'd be the next year.
I
So we could
understand.
figure that out. We'd have to cobble together whatever sources we can find.
Maybe
If
some.
we didn't have him here,
Right.
we wouldn't accept the grant at that time.
That's right, you'll have the opportunity then.
We might as well apply for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shelter, is that gonna be completely enclosed or like the current shelter?
Like the current one, a little bit higher. I think I'd like to build a concrete
You could make it look like a train station there.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
could.
Look like a
yeah.
train station, yeah.
Yeah,
And it would be a much nicer display than what we
you sure would, and you're right, I mean, that's planted right on top of that
Yeah,
engine.
and I had no idea it was a unique engine.
I didn't know it was the only one of its kind. And it's ours, so we have to be stewards of
Yeah,
that.
and I gotta tell you, anybody who's grown up in this town remembers as a kid crawling over that engine. It's a good memory for little kids.
I still do.
Well, but I mean, so do I, but it's a nice memory for children. They remember that thing.
I love to see trains too, until they're blocking my path of where I need to get to.
My wife's
No, it won't.
great-grandfather was a mechanic on that train. Back in the day. One day I saw Barnum and Bailey's train. I have no, my wife's side, not mine.
Thank you, Rodney.
All right, thank you.
Kitty, you're up.
You want me to get home for dinner, I guess?
It would have been much later, you wouldn't have had to worry.
Well, I was sitting there kind of like working and, you know, Jill texted me, get over here. Hi. We're doing farmer's market first, right?
Yeah.
Great. We love the farmer's market. All right, so we're here today to follow up on our April 2nd work session to discuss future operations of the market. 7 areas, kind of broke sort of things down into 7 areas with different options to consider. And I'll assume that the market will transition to a rent-free market beginning on July 1, the beginning of the fiscal year. The areas are the application process, criteria for selection and annual review, operating hours, market layout, booth size, annual closure, and attendance requirements. Staff are prepared to implement changes between July 1 and October 1, and also ask for your support to close the market for 1 to 2 weeks if we need to during that transition period to reconfigure the layout. So I figured it might be easiest to go through these one by one, and we'll see if we can get some direction today. So starting with the application process, 3 basic options. 1 would require all vendors, current and new, to do an annual application. Option B would be an annual application process, but would only apply to new vendors, so essentially grandfathering in the current vendors. And the third option would be a one-time application for all, and nobody would be required to reapply annually. So if you want to maybe
option
chat those through.
That's me.
What'd you say, Kristen? I'm sorry.
I'm option A.
Well, and the application process kind of goes over what criteria? I mean, is there criteria?
Well, I think, and that's, of course,
Right.
these are the things, that all these, answering one sort of leads to the next question, which goes back to the first question, so they're gonna kind of impact each other, but yeah, I think there has to be some kind of, if we do an application process, then there has to also be selection criteria. That goes without saying.
I agree with that, especially.
I mean, I'm okay with
especially if
that.
the idea is that this market is gonna suddenly really take off and be a really positive thing, that we may find that, we would like to find out there's more vendors applying than we have space for, and be able to pick on a yearly basis.
I think it's important for the city, as the owner of the market and the appropriate staff, to make sure that they've got the appropriate business license document. You got the food permit you gotta get every year. You know, those types of sort of good standing items, I would just expect are gonna need to be turned into you every year anyway, so you might as well have a checklist and, you know.
Yeah, a good standing application seems reasonable.
Does that mean that current vendors who've been there for 5, 10, 15, whatever years also reapply every year?
How often have we checked their license status, food license status?
When the health department contacts me and says, by the way, these people haven't reapplied or been renewed, or whatever the word is.
I just think that we should be doing that
But aside from doing that, I mean, we can check.
for all,
Yeah, and let's say,
including current.
that's fine, that makes sense to me, but I'm really thinking of someone like Jeff and Debbie's Grill that's been there so long. Are we really prepared to basically put all the hood spaces up for, essentially for reapplication to anybody that wants to apply? No.
No, they're not applying for space. They're submitting a good standing application with you, so you can verify that those things that are supposed to be in good standing to operate at the market are there.
So I
So
think
it's
perhaps
not
the
application.
That's
different.
perhaps the
The
word
issue
application is not a good.
Right.
You have number 1 and number 2 here. And you really can't talk about number one without talking about number two.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if number one is is it going to be a selection process, or is it just going to be an updating process? That's the issue.
Yeah.
And for existing vendors, their real estate at the market is guaranteed if
No, I have
they
no
do
problem with
have
that, yeah.
the proper
Right.
licenses and everything else.
I have no problem with that at all.
We don't wanna,
So you're not doing an application, can we be there? You're doing a yearly for the ones that are there, just updating their information.
We
and
could
make
call
sure-
that like a good standing check. I mean,
Right.
I'm good with that, but I was really talking about like a selection application, like if I
Right,
want to
no,
sell at the
don't think-
market.
I don't think the idea is
I,
that anybody,
I
not
think this
now.
notion of some committee of vendors deciding that, you know, we have too many bread makers, I'm not in agreement with that. You know, there are 7 bread makers that wanna operate at the market and can do so successfully, that's the market. The market drives that, the market dictates that, that's part of the point.
So you'd go with 2B.
Yeah.
Oh, we've skipped.
First
Okay.
come, first served basis.
Right.
I didn't know that we were off two, or
I don't know that we've answered
One
one
yet.
completely yet, but
Yeah,
maybe we need to look at 2 before we go
yeah.
back to 1.
Because I think there's two different things. There's an application of good standing.
Right.
Or a check-in,
We'll just call
if
it
you
a check.
will. And then an application to be a part of the market as a,
That's
as a
basically
bread
what-
maker or whatever.
And that would
Two
be
different
for,
things.
So new vendors have to fill out an application, existing vendors just have to show that they're in
One-
good standing.
so
Wouldn't that
1B,
make sense?
1B is what you're
One
talking
B.
about.
is, yeah.
1B.
And so with the new vendors, so if someone applies after July 1, let's say, new fiscal year, would they need to reapply every year?
No.
No.
So once they're in, you're in.
Yeah.
So then it's really C.
Yeah.
But they've gotta submit
But they have
something
to.
to you annually.
Yeah,
It says we're in good standing with these
understood.
A, B, and C.
That makes sense.
Well, B and C are
Like a
really the same.
renewal,
aren't they?
like an annual renewal.
And B and C are really the same. One is, if you're a new
Yeah.
vendor, you have to
Right.
apply. If you're already there, you're not a new vendor.
Every year by January 31st, if you don't have your,
Check-in.
if you don't have your items, then you can't operate.
Got it. So
Okay, you
once
got it.
you're in, unless
Right.
you don't come in as good.
Yes.
So that's really a one-time application, no annual reapplication, just an annual check-in, good standing check.
Wellness check.
Got it.
clear as mud.
And so then, when we go to criteria, number 2, criteria for selection and annual review,
yeah, I think first come, first served. Let the market drive that. If there's too many bread makers, there's too.
Well, competition is healthy. That's
You guys
good.
don't kick out airplane
Good thing.
people at the airport, right?
No.
You have too many airplanes.
Yeah, well, you won't.
Well, and there's many food
Well,
vendors.
he agrees with that, but you would kick out, wouldn't allow any more airplane repair people.
Yeah.
Too many of them already.
I'd like to take all the heating and air conditioning companies.
So-
But my hope is that you're going to create some criteria.
well, then let's talk about that, because option B, to my mind, is just like, if somebody shows up and they want to sell bread, they sell bread. Somebody else shows up and they
I
want to
mean,
sell.
market-oriented items. I think the clear concern we heard in the past is that potential divergence to a yard sale-oriented
Right, yeah.
venue. I'm not interested in providing a farmer's market for that type of venue, for that type of business entity.
That's
So
more
if
flea
someone
market.
comes and wants to sell 31 bags, it's a no.
I'm a no on that.
How do we distinguish that?
I think you
Or
distinguish
leggings?
it. It has to be something that is manufactured or cooked or.
Artisan
An
sort.
artisan type of.
I mean, there's tons of other markets locally that do that now.
Yeah.
Shepherdtown's a good example of that.
Like, I can't go there and get a booth and sell Amway.
Yeah.
Or Tupperware.
I don't know,
Sell Tupperware?
Yeah.
Well, no, I have no one selling Tupperware right now, but they ask. They do ask.
I'm a no on that. I just look at the
So it has
cost
to
the
be
city's
handmade.
spending to provide this space.
And the fact that it's free.
Yeah, I'm
It's
not
free
gonna
space
do
for
it
the
for that.
vendor.
Yeah.
I
It's
think
not,
Austin's right.
not something that you can purchase and resell.
Right.
So.
Like a multi-level marketing type of thing is not.
Or, I don't want a container of Chinese-made toys being sold there. I would, if it's an artisan that's making wooden toys or making something locally, then.
Homegrown or handcrafted, is this
Yeah.
kind of where we're headed?
Yeah.
Yep.
Homegrown,
And,
homemade.
but grandfathering in those who are there selling Chinese toys?
It's tricky,
It's tricky, yeah, it is tricky.
because there is a very large section of
Chinese toys?
toys that are
And do we wanna
not
continue that?
Well,
handmade.
I think what you need to do is you make a hard decision that says, first come, first served, you have to decide on certain criteria. Okay, so that if we get up where we have a full market, the place is full, and we have 10 places selling Chinese toys, and a local artisan comes in, and instead of saying, sorry, when there's an opening, we'll let you know, we need to start making decisions about if we get that successful. We're not there yet, right?
Not yet.
So let's come and look at that when we get to it, but, yeah.
But no
I
new
agree.
vendors
No new-
able to
right.
sell that type
I
of.
agree.
No, not
Okay.
at all.
I mean, I'm okay, I think that the grandfathering in is fair.
The way we have to go, it's fair.
It's fair, and can be reevaluated if
Yeah.
someone else wants to sell.
And so we can have yet another person who wants to sell cookies, you guys are good with that?
Yep.
And you're
I
ready to
think
hear
that's
from
very healthy.
those vendors that were here, what, 2 months ago?
Yeah, tough luck.
Okay.
As long as they're not selling cookies that come out of a Keebler package.
Yeah.
Again, there's
If
two
they have
breakfast
If they have
vendors.
better
I know.
cookies,
There's two
if they
breakfast
have better
spots, so
cookies, they
that's-
don't have to worry.
Yeah,
They
make a
do
better
have to
cookie.
worry if somebody's coming in with.
Got it.
Make the better cookie.
Okay,
Or that entity can go rent a storefront.
yes, I encourage them to do that frequently.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
thank you.
we're providing free space.
I know.
To accept
Right.
the rules
It's like an
we're
incubator
providing.
of sorts.
Yeah, it makes it easy once it's free.
Yeah.
Okay, hours. So we did do a little, I wouldn't even say it was an informal survey, like I left a letter on every vendor's table, and I said, please let me know by this date what your preferred hours are. No promises, just want to gauge what you're willing to do or what you want to do. And it was, of course, no consensus. Some were like, yeah, stick with 6 to 12. Some were like 6 to 2, let's go for it. And some were like, yeah, 8 to 2 is good. So the question is, do we want to like make it a standard, everybody has to have the same hours, or do we want to let them have different hours?
I'm a 6 to 2, and everybody's got to be there between 8 and 12.
I'm a 6 to 2, and they can determine when they want to be there.
Anytime within that.
See, as a former vendor, I will tell you that there was constant communication of individual vendors, especially those that have hood space, that would or would not show up from time to time. And there's no point in a vendor going down if half the vendors decide to show up at 9:30 and 10 o'clock and 11.
I agree with
You know what I'm saying? And then you're there trying to participate in the market,
6 to 2, and you have to be
but
there 8
the
to
market isn't really happening because people are like, oh, well, half the vendors aren't here half the time I come, I'm not gonna bother to come.
Is there, about security and the things, and the people that are walking around
I think that's a
during those 6 to
Right, and I
8?
think that's a consideration that we'd have to, and that's, goes to the next number 4
Sorry.
layout, which is, do we want to reconfigure the market house so that there's a section that's like, this is the section for those people that close at noon, and this is the section for people that stay open till 2, because I know that's
Goodness
exactly
gracious.
what the problem's gonna be.
No, I think that's way too complicated.
I think
And I
it is
think if
too.
they want to leave at 12 and the market stays open at 2, that's a risk they understand they're taking. I don't think we can put that on
Yep,
us.
I
And I
agree.
think separating it, that's confusing.
And if you have a good enough product, people will show up when you're open.
Yeah, and given the
As
fact
long
that
as-
it's
as long
not
as you make your
costing them
hours
anything,
clear.
they can pay for their own security if they want to.
So are we good with 6 to 2 are the overall market hours, and you
Yes.
have to be there between 8 and 12?
Yes.
I think that sounds fair, also.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like everybody, and even the 20 responses all covered that time frame anyway.
Yeah.
Okay,
I do think there needs to be some discussion of configuration though. Like,
Okay.
I think that the city has to have more involvement in that process than it previously or currently does.
can you say more
Well,
about
I
what you
think
mean?
that, I think that table configuration, I think that a location of individuals in spots, I think market demand for hood space, I think, needs to be a consideration. Those types of facets that I think you can view and determine setup, instilling a better flow of patron traffic and ease of some of it's set up, you got so many tables that aren't occupied, And so folks feel like they're sort of being channeled like rats through a maze, you know what I mean, in and then out. And I just think it doesn't then lend itself to the level of conduciveness necessary. Number one, to know sort of similar vendors near one another of similar product type. And number two, you know, having areas of relaxation so you're not standing there, you know, waiting 3 people deep for a seat at Jeff and Deb's, or you're not sort of trying to figure out, you know, while you're up against the table in the middle aisle, and if you're in the middle aisle.
Table space is very, I mean, it's hard to come by. And, you know, if you're sitting at Jeff and Debbie's, it's somewhat easy to get a table, but anywhere else in the market is a little challenging. There isn't a lot
But
to
there's
offer.
clearly a number of empty tables of sale oriented.
tables.
Yeah, booth tables.
Yeah,
that-
I think
and all I'm saying is-
reconfiguring it is,
yeah,
right, I agree.
there's gotta be some effort to do that.
I think we should wait till after July 1st, though, when it becomes free, and we see how
Yeah.
many vendors show up, and
Oh, yeah, I'm fine with this whole 1 to 2 week process,
Yeah.
but I just think that has.
But, and maybe in the configuration to, like you said, you know, if someone can decide, like, I'm only gonna be here from
as
8
long
to
as
12.
Jeff and Deb's doesn't have to close for 1 to 2 weeks. we're okay.
But the answer is, we're not asking you to reconfigure it with hours.
With hours in mind, just
Yes.
reconfigure for flow.
Correct.
So we'll
Yes.
I
we'll
think
get
it should be.
engineering to draw
Yes.
some new maps.
You got it.
Okay.
We'll do some one-way signs, and I don't know.
Stop the old me.
Okay.
I just know that you're gonna have a concern about security for the people that don't
Well,
wanna
I
be there
mean,
till
the
after 12.
the way the regulations and the thing they sign off on, the application currently says, you know, you're responsible for your own stuff. You know, if you leave it here, you're
I know.
responsible. We don't encourage you to leave it there, but they all leave it there.
I know,
So
It's their choice.
it's just a pushback.
right, we'll hear it.
I know,
I mean, I'll hear it. You might hear it.
I'll hear it. It's okay. It's
Okay.
okay. This is a good thing. This is good.
Yep, okay. Booth size, do we want to do any kind of limitations on lengths that we allow people to apply for? Or do we just say, apply for what you want?
Because it's
Increase,
free.
decrease anytime? Because it's free, I mean, there's a possibility people go, great, I'll take 12 tables. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Again, I think that goes back to number 4. Like, I just think that you improve the layout and the configuration, and I think that some of that booth mess will clean itself up.
But do you think that there should be a limitation on, you know, this is free space? So what if someone comes in and says, I want 7 tables?
I think they have to be able to justify it.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
I
if they
feel,
justify it, they have to have a table's worth of,
Cookies.
goods. Yeah.
I feel like you can manage that
Yeah, I
like,
agree.
without our specification.
Through the application
I
process.
do, like, I think
Well,
you.
I just was really concerned, because I hear free and I go, oh, table grab. Like, why wouldn't you say, I'll take free tables, now it doesn't cost me anything, now I'll just put more cookies out. So that's the only reason that I put that in there for discussion.
Yeah, the cookies aren't good, they don't last long.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
do we have anybody requesting much more space than they actually are using as a?
Yeah, I think that's the big issue. I mean, I
They
think-
often
walk
say to me,
in.
they often say to me things like, you know, I think I will take another table.
I think
When
it's,
it's free, they will.
I think you can.
That's
yeah.
what I was thinking.
Well,
is
you'll
that when it's
find out,
free-
and if they find out that you got more people wanting tables and we have space for tables, then you'll have to come up with a criteria.
well, and I think it's, every year it's an application process,
Yeah,
you
that's-
know, like.
But it's just a check, it's not really an application process,
Well,
right?
there's nothing to preclude us from, as this thing becomes more
Yeah, I mean,
successful, you can
you
have this much real estate for free. If you
Right,
want this,
right.
you pay
Yeah.
this. If you want, an additional 5 feet, you're
Yep.
gonna pay.
Yeah, I mean,
This
we're
is
doing all
very
this
early.
because we need more
Yeah.
people
Yeah,
coming
let's-
in, so
yeah.
right now.
Let's
I
try
think
it.
this is very early.
We notice
We're making a
abuse,
lot of
we'll come back
finalized
and
decisions.
look at it.
But we're not locking ourselves in.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so B.
Closure.
The annual closure came up because I thought if we were gonna have
Yes.
new vendors coming in, we'd wanna have a
6A
turnover time, but I don't
6A
know.
makes sense,
You
yes.
think 6A makes sense?
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But we're not doing,
6A, oh.
aren't we doing, anyone can apply at any time?
Mhm.
So 6A no longer makes sense.
Only if we wanna have a thorough cleaning.
Well, that's never a bad idea, I would imagine, but.
Well, I don't think it makes any, it says for vendor turnover, that only means new people coming in. Yeah, may have people leaving.
But we're gonna let them come in at any time,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
I just think you gotta pick a time, sometime during the year to tell everybody, hey, we're closed next week.
Right, and that's
Vacation.
the perfect time to do it.
I think, I mean, I do think that right after Christmas is the
I
time
do
to do it.
too.
And
Yeah.
everybody's
Such a
like, is the
rush
market
in
really
Christmas,
open?
yeah.
Okay, so we'll do it, great.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Attendance.
Without my sandwiches.
I'm good with C. I think B, especially for small family and things, it's very hard to dedicate 49 weeks a year, or 47 if we're closing.
47.
Yes, I was
So
good
think-
with that,
I
too.
think
C?
C.
Everybody's good with C? Okay, and should we need to, in reconfiguring for flow, if we need to close during the transition period,
Do whatever you need.
is that all right?
Yeah.
Yes. I will eat breakfast somewhere else for 2 weeks.
All right, you're still.
Smooth going there, people. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, mark it, done. Next,
Yep.
have you all gotten one of these yet? Or several? Here, here, I've got another
You
whole,
give me
whole other
some
box.
for the kiosk in my.
You want more?
I can put them in our kiosk at mine.
Yeah, let's get this one.
I went with it last week.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's all.
I've got plenty more if you want. Scott, I'll get you.
I got some.
Okay. Oh, and I have these fantastic things. I forgot about these. Thank you. Look at that. A PowerPoint, no less. Yeah, sure. Thank you.
But we all go in and
Yeah.
I'm not.
What?
I can't. So nobody will be here for the bike race.
I'll be here.
I thought you were coming.
What?
Oh,
Oh, I'm not.
right.
But I'll be here.
Right. No,
All right, so this is really just to sort of update you if you haven't had a chance to dive into the website, if you haven't been following us on Facebook, if you haven't caught any of our great ads that are on the city channel, if you haven't been to the Lettersburg Cinema ad doesn't go up until June, so you wouldn't have seen that one yet. So here is where we're at with Imagine Hagerstown. As you know, this is an event that's taking place over 4 weekends in June. 4 weekends of dynamic arts and culture in downtown Hagerstown, June 7th, 8th, 14th, 15th, 21, 22, and 28, 29. Let's see if I remember how to use this PowerPoint. Look at that. So it will feature 36 arts and entertainment groups, 9 food vendors, 3 venues, 2 face painters, and 1 fashion show. We're partnering with Horizon Goodwill on their Reimagine Runway event, where I think it's 6 high school students have done sort of a reality show upcycling thing. They went to the Goodwill, had $15 to buy a pound of clothes or 15 pounds of clothes or something, and they're working on upcycling fashions, which they're going to show off on June 7th, 14th, and 15th. As I think you'll see, we've worked to create a diverse lineup that aims to offer something for everyone, different genres of music, different cultures, different aesthetics, and different art forms. The artists are both local, including Hagerstown born and bred, and regional, with the exception of the Get Right Band, which is coming up from Asheville, North Carolina, and guitarist Michael Delala, who's coming in from Colorado. All events, with the exception of one evening in the Maryland Theater, are free. We've been working with Works Graphics on the development of our marketing material, and the city's amazing communications team, Wes and Eric, have created fresh and fun video promotions, and I'll show you one at the end of the presentation. Our hope is that people will come and experience something they didn't know about, enjoy their time downtown, and come away with a good feeling about what's happening here in Hagerstown. So I'm hoping that pictures will speak 1,000 words, if not more. We have a really diverse lineup. There's 9 bands that will play on main stages, 4 at University Plaza, 4 on the Cultural Trail, and 1 at the Maryland Theater. We have the Get Right Band playing funk reggae, the Muddy Crows doing roots rock, the Reagan Years doing the Reagan Years. Black Masala is a world brass band. Genitalia Soul is an Afrobeat band. Orquesta Infusion is a Latin band. Serene Green Bluegrass. And then we have 2 jazz bands, KG Jazz, which is Carenza Gray playing the Cultural Trail, and Trent Renshaw and the Derailers playing the Maryland Theater. There's 5 different dance experiences. We have Gensuya Belly Dance that will perform performances, and they'll do some workshops on the cultural trail. Peter Arizmendi and the Fresh Academics crew will do some hip-hop and break dance at the University Plaza. Sandra Oblitas will teach some salsa dance lessons right before the Latin band takes the stage. The Wilson College MFA program will do some pop-up dance improvisations along the iconic sculptures on the cultural trail. And Danielle Horchowski will be presenting some contemporary ballet. We have one amazing circus artist coming with his family, Mark Lohr and the Lohr Family Follies. He's going to be doing an actual circus show on the stage at the cultural trail. He's going to be doing what he calls strolling circus, which I hope means stilts. I just want to see stilts on the cultural trail. That'll make me really happy. And he's going to be teaching a circus school, not just for kids, so bring your sneakers so you can walk the tightrope wire, which will just be like 6 inches off the floor, so hopefully there'll be no legal issues.
Hopefully 6 inches long.
So that'll be fun. If you need to get cheered up, I'll give you his phone number. He's really a hoot to talk to on the phone. And we also have Brian Wendell Morton, a magician coming in from Baltimore. He specifically was really adamant. He's like, this is not just a kid's magic show. This is really for everybody. So he's also really entertaining to talk to on the phone. So he's going to be performing on the Cultural Trail on the 22nd. Mark Lohr's on the 15th. We have some poetry and storytelling. We have, from left to right on the picture, we've got Fanny Crawford, who's the local Hagerstown storyteller. We have Ryan Michael Rohn, top center. He's a spoken word poet. Takesha Martinez, bottom center. I'm sure you all know her, activist poet. And Adam Booth, who's coming in from Shepherdstown, doing some Appalachian storytelling. And we have several visual arts experiences for people. Most of it is interactive. So Monica Wortman of Wortman Photography will be allowing people to dress up in period costumes. She's getting some turn of the century, 19th to 20th century costumes. She's borrowed like a little brownie camera, and she's going to shoot photos of people as if they're taking selfies of themselves at the turn of the century. I think you have to be there to truly embrace it. She's going to sepia tone it and put it up on Facebook and whatever Monica does. Heartworks is a couple, a man and a woman, who are coming in and doing interactive painting boards. So people who've never painted before, or even those who have, are welcome to come up to these large 6-foot-tall things and paint. They're also doing what's called an imagining board, where it's like a chalkboard, where people can write what they imagine. So it's sort of really meant to stimulate people's thoughts and creativity. And then Tony Williams and his Beacon House crew are coming in to do 2 things. One is the Common Ground Community Art Installation, and he's doing one of his Steamworks projects, which is arts and crafts, robotics, and science activities. Again, it says for kids, but if you want to play with robots, I'm sure that would be okay. And then we have a whole lot of other music that's taking place at various places, not on a main stage. We have Kevin Niedig, who's a singer-songwriter from Pennsylvania. Rhea Ming, who's a violist from Berkeley County, West Virginia. Spence for Hire, local Hagerstown, doing his positive hip-hop. Stephen Darnell is a flutist. He plays Native American and Japanese-style flutes. Amber Marie is a local R&B singer, and she's going to be opening before the Reagan years, which is quite a debut. Michael Delala is the classical and world guitarist who's coming in from Colorado. Candace Mowbray and Danny Weber, local guitarist. Candace is a really well-known classical guitar player. Credits her success to being here in this beautiful place. Lico, also Hagerstown R&B singer-songwriter. PBQ, which is an acoustic quartet, playing a mixed bag of music, I think, but they're great. And if you want to hear a fun video clip, check out the Facebook page, because Eric Hastings put together a really fun little video clip of them. And then we have the MSO, Maryland Symphony Orchestra Brass Quintet, which is going to play some classical, jazz, and show tunes. And finally, we have the Best of the Hub City, which is a way to showcase our very best talent in the Maryland Theater. And we have the Derailers, which is Trent Renshaw's Gypsy Jazz Group, We have Lico, the R&B singer, Takesha Martinez doing spoken word poetry, Danielle Horchowski, that's where she'll be doing, having her ballets performed, and Candace and Danny playing there. And I asked each of them to give me some quotes about how they were influenced by Hagerstown as artists. So those are up there. Danny said, almost every meaningful musical experience I've had is rooted in Hagerstown and the surrounding areas. Danielle wrote, art in Hagerstown is genuine and unaffected, and I am continually inspired by the local art and artists around me. Trent wrote, as a Hagerstown native, the natural surroundings, the landmarks, the history, and my personal relationships have made an imprint on me and the art I create. And Candace wrote, growing up near City Park and the natural beauty of the region influenced me. Growing up in a community with long-standing arts institutions, receiving music education in local public school, and having access to great college music programs in the region affected my experience. And I thought those were all really positive things about how the arts can live here and sustain us here. So I hope that I will see all of you at least some of the events, and I hope that you'll do whatever you can to encourage people to come downtown. Really, there's something for everyone. If you miss one weekend, which I know many of you will miss at least one weekend, there's lots of other weekends to come, which I remember you had said was really important, so I think we'll manage to succeed at that. And to leave you feeling good, which is the whole point of having this event in the first place, we'll end with Eric and Wes's creation.
Imagine Hagerstown. 4 weekends of dynamic arts and culture in downtown Hagerstown. Experience bands, dance, spoken word, circus arts, storytelling, acoustic music, magic, and visual arts throughout the month of June. Free Friday night music featuring live bands plus good food and drink. Free Saturday art and music highlighted by fun and unexpected arts activities plus great bands each afternoon. Don't miss the best of the Hub City event showcasing Hagerstown's top homegrown talent. For the complete schedule, visit imaginehagerstown.org.
There you have it. It's a lot of stuff.
It looks very nice. It looks like a very nice replacement.
Good job. I know it was a lot of work, so.
Sorry to say.
Is, yes.
Sorry to say I'll be out of town 3 out of 4 weeks.
What? Okay, well, I'll expect to see you the 4th. Okay, good, good.
That one.
Yep. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's start with Austin, anything, or, I'm sorry, city administrator. Comments?
Yes, I got a couple this week, Mayor. Amy talked about the Railroad Heritage Days this weekend. It's the first of 4 Railroad Heritage events. The first one is, the theme is Locomotion, Ride and Explore. She talked about $5 admission for adults, $1 to 12, under 3 free. So I'll be spending at least $1 to get my grandkids in there because they love that. They love going to this event. 3 things that, with last week going much longer than we thought, 3 things that I was very glad to participate in. The first is the unveiling of the Thomas Kennedy statue. That was a very moving event. Rabbi Ari, Toby Mendez, and Tom Reifert have done a tremendous job with that whole project. It's a very neat statue that I'd ask anybody to go around and look at, and then there'll be an official unveiling of the entire park in October. So that's something to look forward to. The Awakens Recovery grand opening, what a great facility that has turned into down South Potomac Street. Very well attended grand opening, and just a great change to that building that I can remember not being very pretty to look at, but it's definitely going to be a great resource for the folks that are being a part of that program there. And then finally, the Bester Community of Hope, which is always close to my heart. The Bester family that we have in the South End, and what a great opportunity Keith Fanjoy has started for those families down there, and it was great to be a part of that grand opening. Also, Memorial Park, we induct 2 new enshrinees in Memorial Park. They are Ann Carroll Fitzhugh Smith, who was an abolitionist back in the 1800s, and then now my personal favorite actress, Florence McMichael Myers McCoy, who Steve Buckmiller has turned us on to her YouTube movies from back in the 40s we've showing how my life has become. We've, I think, managed to watch most of those movies, and they are actually kind of entertaining for this day and age. So it's great to have those people being honored this weekend. He's got some special guests coming in for that. Just a couple other things. One thing that was neglected during the presentation of the city center plan was that our Main Street accreditation has been renewed for the 3rd year in a row, so congratulations to Jill. Amanda, who put a ton of work into that program over the years, and of course the folks, the citizens that are participating in Main Street, that are volunteering their time to do it. They're doing a great job, so we've got that accreditation for another year. Also, Chief Lohr, our fire chief, was named to the Fire Services Council of the American Wood Council, which is the council that kind of is the industry advisor for the wood products, lumbering, and this is a very important commission or council on for this group. And Chief Lohr is going to be one of the national representatives, and we're proud to have him as our fire chief. The last thing I'll just mention very briefly concerns the continued, and I believe they are at the end of the tunnel, hopefully now, as far as service issues with Antietam Cable. Just want to mention the fact that, and reiterate the fact that the city franchise agreement that we have with them concerns cable TV services only. It is a mutually exclusive agreement, which means it does not prohibit anyone else that wants to put the money into the infrastructure to bring cable TV services into the city from coming in. Under federal law, we are not able to have any type of concern with phone service or internet service. Anyone can come in here and provide those services to the citizens. We have absolutely no, and we welcome those that want to come in here. We have absolutely no restrictions to that. Antietam Cable also does not have any non-compete agreements that keeps anyone from coming in here and competing against them. We have all seen the social media, and I've received phone calls and emails and various communications to me about what the city is doing or not doing. Really, the city has no authority and has no restrictions to prevent anyone from coming here. We welcome anyone that wants to come in here and do business with the city along any type of communication activity to bring more options for our citizens. Antietam Cable is experiencing a very expertly done intrusion to their network. The reason why you don't hear a lot from Antietam Cable is that this is a matter being investigated, and they are not doing it not because they don't want to, but because they just can't jeopardize trying to find what is at the root end of this. I understand it's frustrating, not only for city residents, but for anyone that's in the county experiencing this problem. But I do believe they are at the bright end of the problem here, and you will see their system stabilize. Not to say there won't be a couple hiccups now and then, but I am hopeful that based upon the communications with me, that they are near the end of the tunnel into the light. So I just want to again reiterate that. Because we all hear it. I've heard it every day for the last 2 weeks, multiple times, and it's unfortunate that it's happened. It has really shed a light on how dependent we have all become on technology these days to do our basic fundamental tasks, and I hope it has enlightened some people to perhaps generate a plan B when they want to be able to do certain things, maybe even talk to somebody face to face every now and then, instead of relying on a text or a FaceTime or something like that. So That's all for me, Mayor, thank you.
Also, our franchise agreement is on the city's webpage.
It is.
Under IT. So if
yes.
anybody has any questions about what our franchise agreement consists of, it's there in black and white. You can read it. So, Shelley?
This past Saturday, Austin and I took our traditional bike ride in celebration of Ride with a Council Member for Bike Month. And what a true gem we had. You can easily hop on a bike, put on a helmet for safety, and follow the signs. It's very simple, nice way to tour about Hagerstown. I have one small blister. And if you still would like to join, there's 2 other bike rides. There's one Wednesday night at 7, which is the Ride of Silence, and then one on Friday night that starts at Benny's Pub.
You're not going to
The Ride of Silence? That is going to be a true testament to my strength. Yes, I'm going. Austin will not ride next to me because he knows I'll talk his ear off. So, anyway, it's a very nice addition. All that investment into the bike loop is a great asset that we have here in the city. So, until next year.
Lou?
Nothing tonight, thank you, Mayor.
Austin?
Just to, Scott, I think pointed out everything I was going to talk about. I just wanted to.
Yeah, we got to teach him.
That's
Can't
right.
steal everybody's
We don't
thunder
have
all
to say
one
anything.
time, yeah.
So I'll bring up some esoteric stuff. Somebody gave me some, I just want to ask a question. They gave me a copy of old city council minutes, and back in 1938, there was a project or a bunch of stuff going on to make an auditorium out of the first floor of the farmer's market and put the market in the basement. Is there a basement in that building?
There is a basement in the farmer's market.
What's in there?
Well, we park vehicles in there and stuff.
Yeah, park vehicles in there.
Oh, is that under, okay, that's where the.
Well, that was during the mayor's first term, so let's see, do you remember?
Oh, geez.
No, that's where we park vehicles.
It
Yeah.
is, okay, all right, great. And just to reiterate what you were saying, Scott, about the Antietam, I think, I've followed all the stuff, all the comments on Facebook, and I understand people are frustrated. I've seen businesses, some businesses much harder hit than others, the ones that really are dependent upon internet connection, and sympathize with everybody, but I think what a lot of people are missing, I don't see anybody, or that many people, maybe a couple, raising the idea of why were we targeted and what does this mean? As you pointed out, thinking if you are opening a business that is that internet dependent, what is your plan B? What's your alternative means of connection? And I know there's ongoing investigations. I know Antietam can't talk a lot about what is happening right now, but I've been assured that multiple federal agencies are involved in this.
We weren't the only area.
Well, there's one other, I understand, yeah, but it's like, I've always, going back to my past IT career, I've always wondered, and you hear these doomsday scenarios about, they get a hold of something and the nuclear power station, they can get in and drop the rods or something. And I've always asked myself, why would you put a nuclear power station on the internet? It doesn't make any sense when you can have a private network. It costs a little more, but boy, it's worth it. So that's just,
And it reinforces also, as we move forward in technology, the abilities of fiber connectivity. This was all cable modem based on a different type. If you had either Flight Gigabit or you had Hagerstown Fiber, which is New Frontiers, that was not affected. So moving forward, this becomes kind of a impotence to look at potentially having fiber installed instead of going through what is kind of a completely separate network. But give me a couple hours in a work session, we could talk about the other things, but I don't think that'll ever happen. So.
that's it.
Kristen?
Just one thing, I had a meeting with someone today after some discussion on the issue of the stadium arising again, and it was a good meeting because I think we had different, perspectives and I just want to say this for those, I think, that don't, I see the Herald Mail's already sort of ramping up articles on the issue, but for those that haven't been paying attention, and I know this, is going to come to some surprise to folks, but I'm not and haven't been entirely opposed to a stadium through these deliberations. I think we've been through, at least me, 6 or 7 iterations, and the reality is, like a lot of folks, I have simply a different perspective and position on what that end product looks like, how it functions, where it is, and we all have positions on that. Unfortunately, in this most recent iteration, you're not given the degree of opportunity that you would like to have to participate in that deliberation process, at least so far. And the reality is, while a lot of folks have opinions on the matter and have perspectives on the issue, I think that it's been generally pointed out that that decision, for better or worse, somehow rests, squarely at this table with the 5 folks sitting here that have to vote on the issue. Everybody's influenced differently on that, and so I think it's important to make that clear, because when I read the article today and it says that for, in whether it's verbal, ad lib or direct communication, I don't and haven't viewed June 11th as a deadline for this body to make some specific decision, but rather for us as a body to be able to deliberate appropriately and responsibly on the information that we've received and be able to have those discussions that I think are necessary in order to effectively communicate our views on this particular item.
Emma.
I just have 2 things. One in regard to today's headline on the cover of Herald Mail. CJ, I appreciate you covering, although it's a negative thing that our overdoses are up significantly in Washington County. I think it's important that this continue to be talked about. Actually just had a conversation with a doctor yesterday about it's getting less and less media attention, because I think we're just now getting used to it, which I think gives people a false sense of hope that the problem is getting better, and the reality of it is that it's not. We're nowhere near the end of the opioid crisis. But I do think Washington County deserves a little bit of credit for the amount of initiatives that are happening. There'll be a 24-hour crisis center open within the next several months. Awakening's just cut their ribbon with a 40-plus bed unit that can detox and help people recover. And, massive education movement with Washington Goes Purple. I mean, this is a partnership between, government, police, fire, EMS, medical, our hospital, our school system. So I just think, it's frustrating for people to see it's getting worse, but it's going to continue to get worse. And I think we need to continue having that conversation, because we can't just pretend it's going away. But I also think we need to reiterate that there is a lot of things to be hopeful for. And a lot of the progress that we're seeing in this community and the positive things that we're showing provide hope to a population that desperately needs it. So I just wanted to point out the good things that are also happening. And for 2018, our overdoses are down significantly in overdose deaths, 19, compared to where we were a year ago at this time. So that is, while it got worse, right now our overdose and deaths are significantly down compared to this time at the same time in 2018. So just think that's important to point out. And lastly, 2 weeks ago we had the Diversity and Inclusion Forum, or 2 or 3 weeks ago at Elgin. And then last week we had a very spirited but important conversation here about, honoring history. And Lou, I felt like you were very unfairly targeted, and it was my honor to campaign with you and get to know you. I know your character, and I know what you are and what you aren't. And I think that you were very unfairly targeted, and it has eaten me alive since then that I didn't defend you. I know you're a big boy, and you don't need us to defend you, but I just wanted to apologize, because it has bothered me all week that I didn't speak up or no one spoke up in your defense. So I just wanted to apologize.
I didn't speak up in Lou's defense because I know that Lou and I go way back on issues that surround that neighborhood, and I've always addressed those issues, and I've always addressed every request that came out of that neighborhood. So he didn't need anybody to back him up on that. I only have one thing, and this is National Police Week. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. is a wreath laying up at HPD. So if you would join us, we'd appreciate it, and honor those fallen men and women of law enforcement. So, and with that, we're adjourned, and see you next week.